Hello everyone, this is Evan Abrams, and in this After Effects tutorial, we're going to be creating hipster badges to show off your logo with some banners and tell people what year you started doing things. Anyway, we're going to cover the design of these badges and how to integrate them with other footage. It's fairly simple, I think you'll enjoy it, and it'll really class up and vintageize whatever it is you're doing. I'm Evan Abrams for Premium Beat, and let's get into it. So, the first thing to do in After Effects is going to be design this badge. So what I'm going to do is create a new composition, and let's just call this badge, and now we'll get into it. So when we're looking at the screen here, you can see that this is black, but it's actually transparent. So you can turn on and off your transparency grid to see, what is transparent. But we're going to be working with only black and white, and those will become either see-through or opaque when we go and composite this later. So the first thing we need to do is create a background or a shape that will be the badge. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new shape layer. And on that shape layer, I'm going to add some things, a group, and then to that group, I'm going to add an ellipse, and then we're going to add a fill, and we're going to add a stroke. Now, if you want to do the shortcut to doing that, you just double click up here on the ellipse tool and it will create one. But if you do this way, you start with something that already has locked dimensions and it just kind of looks nice. So I'm going to go with a size of 400, and we are going to have position 0, 0, and the stroke here, stroke width of 10, and we're going to change the fill to be a black fill, so it's going to be black with a white border. So if you want to see how that's going to look, it's going to look something like this if the background is totally black. So I'm just going to rename this to be badge shape, and I rename things by selecting them and then hitting the return key. Now, I would like to have this animate on, so it's going to start with a size of 0, and I know its end size we would like to be 400, so that's working out for me. And I'm going to duplicate this group, which will give me something that's already animated. I'm going to hit U to just bring up the properties that are animated, and I would like the one that's on the bottom to be slightly larger, so it can expand out to 450. I also need to make sure that it starts at 0. So starting at 0 and coming up to 450. Good. And I'm just going to offset the timing of these just slightly. So moving the first keyframe ahead by 3, the last one ahead by 1. Then I'm going to select all of these keyframes and I'm going to easy ease them, which you can do by hitting F9 or just by easy easing. And then we're going to go into its graph editor, pull the handles like so, and make their movement a little bit more interesting. So certainly there are any number of ways to bring these on. You could have them right on, you could have them do basically whatever, but we're just trying to create sort of an example for you to see how you can take design elements and bring them on. Since this is a circle, I might as well make use of their already interesting circular elements. If you're familiar with the stereotypical things that end up on a hipster badge logo design, we still require some letters, and we require some kind of a graphical thing that has nothing to do with anything, and then we'll need to put a banner on it, and then some text exclaiming when this company was started. So let's put that marker in the middle. We used a little cross in there, and now we're going to make that in here. So I did that by creating some rectangles. So let's make a rectangle. Now you see I made this rectangle by just double clicking up here, which is creating a group that comes with a rectangle path, a stroke, and a fill. I don't need a stroke on this, so I'm going to get rid of it. I do need a fill, and I need that fill to be white. Good. And as for the rectangle's size, it doesn't need to be this big. It could be thin like this, and it could be narrow down like this. 250 is good enough. Okay, so what I would like for this to do to animate on, let's just solo it so we're only looking at this particular thing, and I would like its size to animate from 0 to something before this and then finally to this. So this will be the end state, so I set a keyframe, and then working backwards I would like the intermediate frame to be 10 and 10, and before that I would like it to be 0 and 0. So by working backwards, we get this kind of result, that it comes from nothing and then gets bigger. All right, now I'm going to just shore these up so there are fewer frames between this first bunch, and then we don't even need that many frames between the second. So we'll go like that. Okay. Now I'm going to also transform this rectangle to have it, once it is at full length, it's going to rotate to its new position. So let's start it off horizontally like this, and then let's have it rotate to be at a 45-degree angle, just like that. You can just type in the values if you'd like. So now I'm going to select these. I'm going to easy ease them. You can either hit F9 like we did before, or just easy ease them right there through the menus. Now I'm going to select all of these keyframes, and I'm going to pull them like so, so that they are changing from a hump into a more mountainous looking curve. Good. So, warp. It's looking quite a bit better. Good. Now we can take this rectangle, we can duplicate it, and everything is good except for the last angle. So instead of going that way, it's going to go this way to 90 degrees plus 45 degrees, which, if you know your math, is 135, and if you don't, you can have the computer do the math for you. That causes it to come out and then grow like so. So when we unsolo this layer, we can see that it's not quite at the timing we would like, so we can advance this forward. And there we go. So we already have two of our design elements coming out. So I'm just going to label this one cross. Now I think it's time that we put a banner out here. Might as well, because, people like banners. We'll do the text last. Let's make another rectangle. We made the rectangle by double clicking, and we do not require a stroke, so I'll get rid of that. And again, working from our principles, we're going to work backwards. So first off, I'm going to find a size that works for us. And usually this will be determined by how much text you have to put onto this thing. I already kind of know, so it's a bit of a cheat, but I'm going to set this banner down around here. Good. And when I move it, I'm moving it by its position value, which is not inside the contents. So the contents are one thing, and then the transform position of the entire layer, that's something else altogether. So I'm using this to move the whole thing, and I am relying on the contents to animate this thing. So to that effect, what I would like to do is have the size end here, and before the size was 0. So it's just expanding horizontally like this, from 0, 125 up to 500, 125. Now I'm going to duplicate this, and of the rectangle behind, I don't really need to keyframe its size per se, but I do need to give it a new size. So first I'm going to move this up by -25, and now I'm going to make it slimmer here to 150 by 125. I'm going to move its position all the way over here like so, to 280 minus 125. And these numbers, don't worry about all the numbers I'm saying. This is just in case you can't read them. You might be using a different frame size than me. You might be designing this differently. So let's just not get too crazy and hung up on the recipe numbers here. Now I'm going to add to this group a polystar. And that polystar is going to be a polygon. And it is a polygon of 4 sides, which makes it a diamond. Now I'm going to move it over around hereabouts, and I'm going to move it up by -25, and then I'm going to add to this group a merge paths, and the merge paths will be defining the way these two shapes interact with each other. I'm going to set it to subtract so that this is taking a bite out of that. Set this to be at 360. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, in its transform of this rectangle, what I'd like to do is have its scale change over time. And that scale is going to be non-uniform, going from 0% up to 80, 100%, kind of like this. So it's going like that. And what I'd like to do for this group is also change its anchor point. So I'll move the anchor point so that it's here on the edge of this shape, so that when it expands, it's only expanding from that edge. And then I will alter its position so that it comes to rest right around there. So when this animates on, that's going to come up, and then that's going to come up. Good. Now I'm going to duplicate this to create another rectangle, and then working with its transform here, really all I need to do is have this rotate around, and then we'll find it a new home to be sitting at. So I alter its position to be over on the other side, all the way over here, and then we'll move it up like that. And just kind of want to make sure that these things are even, which they are. Thank you, ruler. And that's good. So this comes out, and then those come out. Cool. So let's look at the keyframes. We're going to take these, we're going to easy ease all of them. So when you take them and easy ease them, they're going to be going from flats to humps like this. And now I'm just going to pull the handles, all of the handles, to have that same shape. But then I'm going to take these in the middle and convert them back. So what does that mean? Well, it just kind of smooths the motion between both of these. So if we look at the graph of all of this motion, you can see it kind of comes up, and then it's going to come down, and this is kind of an expected curve, and it makes them just flow together a little bit nicer. So let's see how we're looking. We've got this come out, and then that. We can shorten this layer by trimming it, and then we can move it to be more in line with where we would like it to be. Okay, that's pretty good. And if you don't like the way this is oriented, maybe flip it around kind of like this. Maybe prefer banners that look like that. Maybe prefer it up here or down there or wherever. Move things wherever you want, but you can now grab your banner, move it, flip it, change it, put it wherever. Okay, so we have some shapes on here. Let's put on some text. So I am going to type out, example. Awesome. I'm using the Futura font. Seems that's a very nice font for hipster related activities. I'm going to use my align panel here to stick this font in the center. I'm not feeling heavy oblique. Let's just go with regular heavy. Realign that. Okay, so that seems to fit nicely in there. I think I'm feeling that. You can make yours, smaller or however you would enjoy your text being. But we are going to animate this on using the text animators. So once I feel there is enough space for it to begin animating on, that's where I'm going to start my animation. And I'm going to open this, and I'm going to go to animate, and I'm going to animate its scale, and I'm going to add to that a rotation. So I'd like the scale to be starting at 0 and the rotation to be starting at 90. And the animator range selector here, I'm going to have it start at 0% and it will end at 100%. So everything comes on like this. Good. And in the more options, I'm going to be adjusting the grouping alignment to be -50 so that the grouping alignment is a bit higher for its scaling and rotation, which is good. And in the advanced, I'm going to just ease low on everything so everything kind of pops in a little bit. Good. And the timing may need to be adjusted, but overall, there's a banner and then some words come up. So I'm pretty happy with how that goes. A lot of this will come down to your own design sensibilities and what you're hoping to see. But now we have this. We are going to duplicate it. We're going to move it down here. We're going to change its text color to be white. And then we are going to put in established 2014, perhaps? I don't know. All I know is I think I've been making tutorials with Premium Beat since 2013. I feel that's correct, so that's why I put 2013. Put whatever year you want, or we're established, or whatever. Anyway, you can size it up however you like, but you've already got things animated on, so let's advance this ahead like here. and then maybe pinch this together a little bit so that it comes on a little bit faster. Cool, so you've got a bit of text down there. And we had little hyphens on either side. So we made those by making another solid. Solids are cool. This solid is a rectangle. And again, rectangle paths being what they are, you kind of have to define how wide you want it to be. Let's do 350 by 10. Okay, and let's change its position down to be down here. Awesome. And I'm just going to set its start to be there, keyframe its size to just go from 350 by 10, and it's going to start at 0 by 10. So it's going to expand out of the middle, and I'm going to easy ease that. I'm just hitting F9, so this is just an easy eased line, which seems to divide this up quite unfavorably. So what I want to do is add to this another rectangle, or rather I want to add to it an entire rectangle group, so you can just duplicate your existing one. And we're going to change its fill to black. Okay. And this one does not need any keyframes, so we're going to remove that. But its size is going to be right around here, and it's going to be a bit taller like this, and it's going to come in under the established there, so it kind of defines the edges where we care to see that line. And now I want to alter its graph here just to make it more gradual as this thing ends, so it's more interesting, I think. And we can pull this out a bit if we want. Okay, good. So we've got example, we've got stuff going on. We're going to want some letters in here. So these letters were a little bit more tricky. They were definitely more interesting. So I'm going to use the text tool here to make A, B, C, D. So I'm going to start by making these appropriate sizes. So this looks like an appropriate size, and we're going to stick it right in the middle of the composition. I'm going to duplicate it, make it B, duplicate that, make that one C, duplicate that, make that one D. Okay, I'm going to select all of these, align them to the composition, not the selection, to make sure they're all nice and centered. Cool. And now what I'm going to do is try to position them very correctly next to each other. So A is going to be up. So I'm pushing it up basically 12 stops by using the arrow keys. And B, same thing. 12 stops down, which now I can see is too much. So I'm going to move it to only 10 stops and adjust A to be in line with that. So C is going to go 10 in this direction, and D 10 in the other direction. So they're all equidistant from the center, all right? I'm going to want to do something to bring these on in a special way. So I'm going to time them to coincide with basically this thing expanding. So A and B, I'm going to call up their position, and I'm going to put a keyframe, and move ahead, and put an end keyframe there. And their start, I would like A to be below this line, and B to start above this line. So just around there, and A will be just around there. Good. And these two layers don't need to start any sooner than that. And what they're going to do is just move, easy eased, grab these points. They're going to move like this, all right? And quite frankly, they can take their sweet time at the end if they like, so they can drift, more if they want. But that's about it. Let's see, look at those graphs again. You can see one of them could use a bit more drifting, I think. Good. So, boop, just like that. Okay. So now we need to cover them so that they are not visible until they cross that threshold. All right. Now I'm going to do that by creating a square that covers this half of the comp, all right, or at least where they would be. So that rectangle, I would feel better if it was 200 by 200, and that its position was 100 down. And I'm going to transform this 0, 0 like that. So it is taking up exactly half going down. Now I'm going to position 1 above A, duplicate this, position 1 above B. A and B will now use a track mat, perhaps an alpha track mat, and one of them will need an alpha inverted track mat. And I believe it's going to be A. It's going to need the alpha inverted track mat. So that you can't see, or you do see them, where that shape is. So in general, here's what we're doing. We've got B. It's set to alpha mat of shape 4, which is this shape, meaning that B will only be visible as long as it's in the space that that shape occupies. A is the reverse, or the inverse, that it will appear everywhere that that shape is not. So you get something that so far looks like this. Cool. In fact, I kind of feel like I want to move this down a little bit to be more accommodating. Now, as for the C and D sort of thing over here, that was created by making a shape that expands to basically take up the space that we need to reveal these things. So let's make them out of these shapes. So I'm going to duplicate that. Okay, and let's only look at it. All right, so what it's going to do is rotate. Let's look in here at the contents of the rectangle, and we're going to transform that rectangle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it 45 degrees, just like that. So we're going to go minus 45. Now I'm going to duplicate that, and this one is going to rotate the other direction. It's going to go like that. All right, so it's going to go positive 45 degrees. So you can see the place where they overlap could be defined by a Boolean operation, but it's not exactly expanding the way we want. We want this space up here. So we're going to go into that rectangle and change this to be minus 100. So you can see the space that they are now occupying is this one. Okay, now we're going to go in here. We're going to remove the fills and strokes from inside. So it's just path information. And now we're going to add to this a merge paths. Awesome. And this merge paths comes with its own fill and stroke, and we are going to go to intersect, and that means that we are only going to look at the information where these two intersect each other. Okay, now let's look at these keyframes again, and let's just move them to be in time with those other keyframes that we created. That might be not the best idea, but you know, we'll put them there for now. And we are going to change them to be easy eased, and then mess with the curve like this. So they go like that. Okay. So same thing for D. Let's observe D. It's going to be down like that somehow. And we are going to set its track mat to be the alpha of that shape. Cool. So when we are looking at everything, it seems to expand and appear as if out of nowhere. However, I think the shapes are a little bit off. They are just not quite large enough. So hit UU, and then you can expand them to be as big as they need to be. Looks like 250 by 250 should cover it. Good. And we want its transformation to be going at the same time as this cross is expanding. So we're just going to drag the keyframes to be there and there. Perfect. Just going to trim the layer like so. And now the D kind of expands out of that. So we can take this, duplicate it, rotate it 180 degrees. So it's on the other side. Put this down above C, set C to be the alpha track mat of that as well. And let's sit back and look at our work. Looks pretty good. So we have a lot of black and white stuff going on here, and that's not necessarily bad because we're going to take this badge and we're going to composite it over another image. So let's take some footage that I filmed of the place where I live, which is great. And here's me saying things. So if we want to composite our badge over that, then we put it over top. And as you can see, it is black and white. But if we change its blending mode to be something like a screen, all the black parts become see-through and all of the white parts go over top. So already you can have stuff over other stuff, and all of the positive and negative space is resolved. So kind of comes on like so. However, this isn't exactly very readable because what's in the background is just as crisp as what's in the foreground. So I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. I'm going to slip that under the badge here. I'm going to apply a fast blur. And this is if the footage you're using is not already blurry enough to accomplish this. But I'm just going to blur this out to like a 5 or higher, just get it nice and blurry. Can't really tell what's going on, but it doesn't matter because this is what's important. Now I'm actually going to fast blur it to an amount of 1 pixel, and then I'm going to duplicate that layer, and I'm going to increase the top one's fast blur to 2. And you can see it's kind of softening the edges on this. That's kind of what we want because we don't want it to be totally crisp. That's sort of annoying for people, and it doesn't have that vintage appeal. So also we're going to go in here to alter the opacity, and then we are just going to bring the opacity down of both of these. So I'm going to bring them down to 75 apiece, which is going to create some subtle variation in these hard white spots here. You can see over here in the values that they start to change just a little bit, and it can be anywhere, somewhere lower even. The big thing is that you don't want it to be exactly white. If that is what you want, then go for broke with that. However, it's my professional opinion that it looks better if you do not. That is about it. You have now created a badge, you've got a blurry background, and you have composited it over things. Certainly there are infinite ways to do this, as there are infinite ways to design such a thing. You could make this in Illustrator and then bring it in, but hopefully this has given you a place to start to create some banners and badges and just pretend that you have a vintage company, even though it was established right here. So anyway, I'm Evan Abrams for PremiumBeat.com, your source for excellent music and sound effects. You should definitely check some out. There's probably some vintage stuff in there that you might enjoy to go along with your vintage logo. If you want to see more of my work on Premium Beat, check out my space in the authors section. And if you want to see more of my stuff in general, just check out my YouTube channel, EC Abrams, or hit me up on Twitter at EC Abrams. Anyway, check out the other tutorials here on Premium Beat. They're all over the blog, not only from myself and not only about After Effects. There are industry experts here sharing their knowledge on Premiere and audio design and all sorts of excellent things, so definitely check those out and subscribe to Premium Beat in all of its channels all over the internet, and I will see you next time. Thanks a lot and have a nice day.